Good day, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the channel Then and Now, me now on a host and presenter, Prince Emil Kroma. Today, we are about to do a great presentation. We are about to talk to somebody of eminence, of stature, a stakeholder in our society. When we talk about the Coalition for National Election Watch, we talk about the Executive Director for Campaign for Good Governance. This person don't need much introduction as she is already well known within the social, political and economic circles both abroad and our country. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about Mrs. Marcela Samba Sesay. Mrs. Marcela Samba Sesay, welcome to the program Then and Now.
Thanks so much and thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to speak on issues such as this.
Thank you very much. Just to start with, I want to go straight to the point. I want to ask you what parameters, a civil society can use for measure good governance.
Oh, thank you very much. Civil society such as Campaign for Good Governance and National Elections Watch, I can say not to just the normal civil society. We don't establish beyond civil society. We're actually a think tank for Sierra Leone, because the number of people, they wonder how we're able to pull up issues around democratic principles and practices, and that is exactly what it is. For let democratic processes unfold, you get to understand, just like what you say, waiting at the parameters, waiting at the basic guidelines and principles which guide democratic processes. And one of such, and in fact, not the basis, not the rule of law. So the legal framework, waiting the law say, waiting democracy say, waiting at the prescription, it just sounds like when you get diagnosis and you're not a doctor. After you don't diagnose the problem, there are certain prescriptions you give. So you therefore understand, first and foremost, whose kind of context we dey. So like for win a campaign for good governance, we want for contributes, for example, to waiting we for do in what we call a post-conflict society. When you want for build democracy in a post-conflict society, there are certain attributes. And within the attributes, they go for watch out within the framework of the law. Certain things and they will go happen in other societies, other democracies. In fact, Senegal, although not French speaking West Africa, they just get the elections last week. But we hearing nothing, no chamots. I mean, the sub-region, there was no tension. Within that same period, Nigeria gets the elections. Nigeria elections, there were issues, they had logistical challenges, they therefore postponed the elections. So basically, the point what they make is that various countries in West Africa, they at varying points in their democratic transition. So for we in Sierra Leone, after 2002, we're actually a post-conflict society. So you get for watch, waiting at the ingredients for gear and taste. Waiting exactly a post-conflict society need. And political scientists then believe same, a society where don't come up and conflict, where they don't fight war, it's easy for slide back to war. And so it's a give and take situation. You pull small, then you push small. You draw the political leaders, then can engage, then you push small. Because many a times you get for remind them, when you become too familiar, they relax. When you hit them canto and say, hey, so what's exactly what I want to do for you? So that's the approach we're taking. So you get for understand the fundamental principles, and then you get for guide the leadership for understand. Because in 1996, the organization where me the head right now, Campaign for Good Governance, and they're using that to make an informer. Sierra Leone don't experience military rule. Sierra Leone don't experience one party rule. In 1996, we want to try with democratic practices. Can we have an organization to help guide the process? That was why Campaign for Good Governance was established. It was established as a watchdog institution for democracy. So that's exactly what we're doing. So are we actually portraying the tenets and practices of a democracy? Now some of the questioning and all they use to interrogate the process. So what do? We do research, we do civic education, because one attribute of a good democracy and informed citizenry. Yep. You know, you find out, say, especially in the last elections, the 2018 elections, a lot of propaganda being they go on. Some people even confused. They say, we don't understand what really they go on. But then, informed citizenry, you go for give them the kind of education where they need for let them support democracy. Citizens then get for be empowered enough for all governments for accounts. For all governments to account, not to a negative principle. Now, a fundamental democratic practice.
Absolutely.
If we send you for go do something, because the citizens now then get the power. If now we say waiting Ginger Crusoe called the social contract, it say at some point we need for hand over the power. We left them in safe care of certain people them. Then after a while, then for come back, if we don't give you something for all for me, you don't hold on 5 years. It is but fitting for come back and can't tell where you manage them.
Which exactly moves me to my next question, and I really appreciate that. But before I develop the next question, I just want to say thanks for the way you articulate exactly what most people don't come for know you for, because you don't take time for explain exactly, let people understand where you are, where good governance is, and the rest of it. That's an explanation that most people, you know, here will tend to agree with. But you mentioned something about social contract. That would be between them and us and them, vis-a-vis, either way. So when them bring and come back to the people, it bring about some kind of a change of government, if you like. If I suppose say now the direction and the go. So now there is a new government in town after they not express, you know, yeah, then civic, after people don't express their civic obligations.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I asked about the parameters and you mentioned them, you know, how they are being used. Now, as we speak, Mrs. Marcela Samba Sesay, how would you measure then, as opposed to now? What have been the relationship then in terms of civil society work and what in now?
Well, as I mentioned earlier on, we work as civil society. Nobody not get for disturbance. Change of government not get for disturbance. Nothing not get for change, because it's the same framework that we work with. We look at political leadership. When I say leadership, it cuts across the board, not just the presidency, but equally so how the executive they operate, how the parliament they operate, and how the judiciary they operate, can down to public servants and the civil service and all. So all other they within the governance system and structure. Once we understand the parameters with which we operate, no political leadership no get for change. Change of government no they affect the work we campaign for good governance to do. Because one, we vision. I mean, like you always tell me, team say we vision big past we. The vision are foresee a better Sierra Leone. Outside we go live a people-centered life. You know, poverty, quote unquote, now a disgrace. We have been reduced to a begging nation. Yep. And most people look at Sierra Leone, it's like a paradox. Because if even the South we sit down, they do this interview, I tell you the value where we natural resources get. But it's also a governance question, how we don't manage them for like benefit the ordinary citizens. So we can always ask questions irrespective of who they're in power. Now, so campaign for good governance as an entity continue for be articulate as we will be during the APC regime, and we are also very much articulate during the SLPP regime. We want to see a Sierra Leonean government that is responsive to the needs of the people. A number of things that happen were really not good for the democracy quite recently. Namely? The events the way they happen at parliament. One thing we will get for realize, you know, parliament now the center of democratic practice.
Absolutely.
It now a small representation of the society, because each and every one of we, where they across Sierra Leone, turn in one parliamentarian for represent with constituency. So it's just a picture. What we call a microcosm of what's in the happen at the country. 9 days in a parliament, because they represent varying interests, varying regions and varying districts. Now, if the parliament's not able to coexist, if they're not able to discuss issues and come to an amicable settlement, we go find it difficult. Because now then get for make laws will go affect the lives of citizens. I don't see any reason why make parliaments not for able to get consensus around, because the very issues, whether you are an APC MP or you are an SLPP MP, depending on whose constituency they represent, or whether you are an NGC person,
yep,
or a C4C parliamentarian, when you go to the market, nobody they go ask you, say, give your identity before I sell one corporate scheme.
Absolutely. So
the issues affect every Sierra Leonean across the board, and our representatives in parliament were able to articulate the issues that they in the best interest of the state. But unfortunately, the parliamentarians are not able to see eye to eye, and the tension, the growing tension. Now parliament, it will get a rippling effect on the development, because now they get for do the policies and the laws where we get for using term for translate and implement for better we lives.
And this is exactly again where I want for botting. Thanks again for that. And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are watching, they talk to somebody who is not known for sitting on the fence, who is known for saying it straight, and she's saying it exactly as it is. Earlier on, you mentioned about the politics, the nature of politics now with country. You talk about, generally we are talking about good governance. We mean, like social, economic and political cohesion and nation building and the rest of it. And when you mention about parliament, the reason we make, I try for interject is it sounds like things are not going the way that they are supposed to go in terms of nation building. If this is the case, it's not. Theoretically, Parliament is supposed to be the house of the people, and the big house, if you like. And it's not going the way how we will choose the people for go in there. What then, if this is the case, what then can be done? How do we form something about, for go forward away from a pathway not supposed to be?
I think say the leadership. When I said the leadership, the presidency, the executive get for take up the challenge.
Okay.
Then get for take up the challenge for broker peace. Quite recently, from the office of the president, then get waiting and call the green paper, where they lay out a peace plan, because these are some of the things we've been calling for. We had a very contentious election.
Yep.
Say what you may, it was an election where the current president, in the person of His Excellency and His Baikoma, was no longer contesting, but his party was contesting.
Absolutely.
It was no longer contesting because he served his 2 terms. So that's give room for let we get 2 people them we're not then at the presidency. In other countries, for example, if the incumbent is running for a 2nd term, it can be of less tension.
Yep.
The power of the incumbency and everything can come inside. But then these were 2 people who were not in the political seats. So it creates a lot of problems across. But in fact, now that makes the coalition when we the head, we stand up for this country and say, in a situation like this, where everybody thinks say we want to win the election, we have to have an independent body to say that this is what we saw and this is what it is.
Do we have that independent body?
That's
is
what
there
we
anything
did
in the
as
pipe?
National Elections Watch.
Okay.
That's what we did during the elections. As civil society across the country, we deployed 12,000 observers. And then we did what is called the parallel vote tabulation. This is now a blueprint for civil society in electoral processes, where they give rapid and real-time information from the field on electoral
Did
results.
that bear fruit? I mean, it was, it did.
It did, because it contributed enormously to post-election peace.
Okay.
Now it was a situation where we were able to say, this is what it is, this is what we saw, and in the first round of elections, we saw that nobody was winning the elections. It was actually a runoff, and we said that. So that's contributed. People believed us, and they said, yes, And when the Electoral Commission came with the results, it resonated. So it was good that we came out very strongly to the good of the nation. So we brokered peace in that front. So now the president has to take up that challenge further. You know, they say you will wear on his lies the head that wears the crown.
Absolutely.
So now I get for now the party where they na power now I get for fear. Now they get for understand say in fact the Sierra Leone constitution say now in the fountain of honor.
Absolutely.
It means say anything I get for take responsibility. And so quite recently there was a positive move. The president, after a series of calls, you know, in the Electoral Act, for example, for the appointment of an electoral commissioner, you go for consult with the other parties. The other parties, I mean, there was no consultation done in one of the appointments for an electoral commissioner for the South. Yep. But recently, he called all those people, all the political parties, to come together and to talk about it. And also there is this issue of sexual offenses, especially against minors. There is a state of emergency that the president puts forward, and then he called them and explained what's in the rationale behind this. So the point is, if we wait and take this state of emergency going to parliament, for us women, we are so sick and tired of this issue of abuse of minors, rape of young children.
Mrs. Samba, on the basis of law, legally speaking, and of course you represent one arm where they try to make sure say things go right.
Yes.
When they go to parliament, even though the issue is a burning issue, but because of suspicions, we go back again to the basis of exactly. The other side, yes, the other side no agree.
Exactly.
The other side is seeing like say this instrument where they try to introduce it's politically motivated.
Exactly.
Yeah. Where does campaign for good governance stand on issues of this nature?
So the whole issue is, even though we'll be having an opposing sides, because it's about the opposition, it will be about the ruling party versus the opposition. Now, even though they sit at the opposition side, but I believe say each of them gets a singular objective, and that singular objective now foresee a better Sierra Leone. We don't want to foresee a Sierra Leone where before we get picking the reach puberty, they have all been tampered with. So some action need to be taken. I think say now from that position, now them for able to sit down and reason from both sides. And probably now you're saying this thing not meets the state of emergency threshold where the president puts forward. So as parliament, what would you advise? You know, some of we even they call now for let them review the sexual offences law, because that they go help in the long term for shape this process and for put more stringent provisions that are lauding for address the problem. So there is a whole lot of things where we can do as a country if we reason together, and that's democracy mean. It means consultation. It means empowerment. It means inclusion. We not go say because them people are not in power, this will not take all system now we country. It affects this country. It affects democracy. It affects peaceful coexistence. When the Southeasterners, when SRPP win election, the Southeasterners think now they're no more for dinner power. When APC win, the Northwesterners then think now they're no more for dinner power. It is affecting the real social fabric of the nation. We don't want that kind of thing there for happen. We
don't want and having to do something about it are two different things. If you understand what they try for say. And I know say you campaign for good governance, they try for put measures into place or make sure say there is some degree of good governance. And this now one thing. Are you equally doing something that these kind things the way they happen, like how you articulate and so when Northeasterners then take over, it's all about Northeasterners, or simply put, you know, winner takes it all. Are you actively doing something, you know, to quell this, to stop this, to stifle this, that it doesn't happen in our nation, because you know really they help us?
In fact, I am on a campaign. If I choose to spend time for talk to you on my evolution right now, it's because we are on a campaign with voice for reach out to the minds and hearts of Sierra Leoneans, for do that sort of civic education will give the enlightenment and consciousness as to what we can do and how we can able embrace democracy as the good standard we will help the country. So that's what we do. We talk about this in the media, we talk about this in public forums, we do town hall meetings to do citizens education. It takes time though, but a lot of people don't get to understand that where we they do so is stand for destroy we are supposed for to bring we together. So it's important that we continue with the engagement, the education and all. It's very, very useful. I think say it will be good for the government see the need for consult a lot more. Government see the need for engage a lot more. I mean, for be overtly politically partisan, not a help in no way, because Sierra Leone na a society where everybody connected. Say what you may, it's a very small society. We are connected by intermarriages. We go to the same church, we worship in the same mosque. There is so much interlinkage. Not so a big society where gets 200 million people like Nigeria, or 10 million people like other countries, or 30 million like Ghana. This is just 7 million people. We are connected in several ways. We stand for gain if we are united, and we stand for lose a lot if we are disconnected. And at that disconnect, we no want for let happen. Waiting we for try for do. We for try for ensure say we bring the basic of facilities. Governments for be responsive to the needs of the people. Clean and safe drinking water, electricity, basic health care, education. When we don't done with them basic 4 parameters, then we begin for examine how do we build housing facilities so that people then go left this slum culture.
You talk about social housing.
Exactly. Okay. Quite recently, one of the biggest slum in the world, where we host in Freetown in the capital city, Wena Bay, fire broke out a couple of days ago. About 500 households affected. Wow. Do we want to continue in this situation? What's in our government in plan? You know, work with the city council. So you see, all the intention them, APC council, it's not helping. Yeah. How does central government work with the local council, which is the Freetown City Council, for put forward a plan? Governments here in, here out, they have not paid attention to that place, because they say we no want for displace them, we no want for we lost vote, we no want for pull together then Abacha Street, we no want for lost vote. If we continue in that overtly political lens, we will not do anything. But what do? We sit with the people, we consult with them, we put forward a plan for them. Let them understand the plan. Let them see how much they could benefit from a healthy living and healthy lifestyle with that plan. And let them buy into it and see how we can foster. We have to have a national transformation focus.
Absolutely.
We're not to one government account with your 2-3-year activity. If we have an activity-led government, that doesn't bring development. It has to be a 25-year plan, and we want for work towards some. Other countries have done so. Yep. We cannot be going through this kind of stagnated development. It's very frustrating. May know a lot of Sierra Leoneans from abroad will want for relocate. But you know, the basic living condition not able for day, and then no one for day in that kind of society. Can we talk to our governments? Can we talk to our leaders that it is not business as usual? It is a situation where they are coming to serve. Me go clap for any president. I go clap for any president publicly. We go open doors to consultation and see how we can chart the way forward for make sure say Sierra Leone be a better place. We get all what it takes for transforming the medium term.
Yeah.
We have natural resources.
Yep.
We have a young and youthful population.
Absolutely.
We have women. In fact, that one is the most important. How do we integrate women folks into our processes and empower them so that they go able to contribute meaningfully to development? Yep. How do we ensure women's political representation? Any leader we want for see in country better. Let's look at Rwanda. You know, Kagame might have his own issues.
Of course, every leader
gets his own issue. But Rwanda went through a cycle similar to Sierra Leone. They had, I mean, the level of violence in Rwanda, it was, the consuming quality was unheard of. The genocide, it be really worrying. But what thing happen? Then get this leadership where things say we can make this country. And it thinks say every person for involved. It brought women. In fact, women are at the highest in terms of representation in the parliament and other spaces.
But that could be attributed to the fact that many men lost their lives in the population.
Well, you see one thing about this patriarchy, they would always give justification. But there are men anyway.
No, it's a good initiative, by the way. I was just saying,
that's what we want to see.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of argument they give when you ask about women to sit on the table and discuss.
Yep.
By the way, tomorrow is International Women's Day, 8th of March. And I want to use this opportunity worldwide.
We will come to that, Marcela. I would definitely give you, the chance, to highlight that, to the people. But let me move to something else, which you wanted to develop some different argument away from the International Women's Day.
Yes.
Because you definitely will be giving chance, to talk about that. Yeah.
So I want to talk about, I'm still talking about the Rwanda issue.
Okay.
So people will still talk about, oh, where are the women, for example, to take up political leadership? They are there.
Yep.
They will say, oh, this woman cannot sit on the table because she's not educated. But men have been sitting around the table and they are uneducated. But it's about what the woman can bring to the space and how to include that. That's the discussion. It's very important. What I'm saying is that if we try as best as possible as a country, because leaders forget so easily. When they want power, they understand all the discussions. They understand all the rhetorics around good governance. But when they take power, they forget so easily. Forgetting that it's just 5 years.
Yep.
Or if you are fortunate, you go for a second term.
Yep.
And then after that, that's it. You come back to the society. Yep. You come back to the society where there is no water. You come back to the society where the electricity is shaky. You come back to the society and you sit back
devoid of all the basic amenities that could have been for the people.
So we don't want to be going through that vicious cycle.
Marcela, because of time constraint, let me move on to something else which most people think is actually controversial, and that's the issue of the Commission of Inquiry, to which you've spoken, again by virtue of your position and you being a stakeholder. You believe that the instruments, and write me if I'm wrong please, you believe that the instruments or the way they went about the process was questionable, and I think you've spoken on national and international media as per the process and even asked whether there's a possibility or whether it could be revisited, or probably you were speaking from the point of view in terms of national cohesion, which I believe is very important to you, nation building. So would you, for the audience, please clarify what was your position on in terms of the instruments and the the follow-up?
So very briefly, this whole idea of a commission of inquiry stems from the fact that there were issues of corruption within the state, and this needs to be clarified. Issues around the Ebola and all of that, it needs to be clarified. I mean, so the point was that we have had a very challenging period. The elections had been very contentious. Any process that would bring further separation or dent into the national cohesion process was the problem. That was our premise. Now, how can this be done? We said that it needs to be done fairly, it needs to be done transparently, it needs to be done according to the prescription of the law. As long as it is done in a fair and transparent manner and communicated in a way that people will understand that the essence is to heal the country. Because, say what you may, we do not want a process where leaders will come and then at the end of the day, nothing happens. It's just a vicious cycle. So it's good that we understand if there is rampant corruption in the state, where is it happening? Or did it happen at all? Or if it happened, where, for example, and what's the trends are, what the patterns are? So the Commission of Inquiry will be able to unfold all of this. And I think so far, the foreign judges have been doing a good job. They have made the space very open and transparent. That was exactly what we were calling for. Because it got to a point when it becomes so contentious, there were demonstrations, and we never wanted that. But as it sits now, they don't tamper down a little bit. And people, they go give the investigation, and they go on. People, and they go to the commission, they go testify. And people tend to be following the process with acceptance, which is good.
So if I do understand this well, the position of the Campaign for Good Governance is just to ensure that everything go in accordance with the law.
Exactly.
Basically.
So that people do not use legal processes to their own satisfaction.
Absolutely.
That you are happy for a particular law when it's in your favor. But when it's not in your favor, you are against it. No, that's not the way to fight corruption. That's not the way to handle the rule of law. The rule of law is the same at all times.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I am speaking to the Executive Director for the Campaign for Good Governance, Mrs. Marcela Samba Sesay, and we talk today in Freetown. And she spoke earlier on about the beauty of the country, the asset where the country gets, we're supposed to make we all get along fine. And we're at the beachfront now, and as I speak to you, hopefully we shall see the view in this. And I want to say thank you to Marcela. I got one or two questions, and we're going to round up this interview, which brings me exactly, Marcela, to measurement, if you like. Obviously, you were around during the last government. And you're around, most people will say, during the early part of this new government. But I talk about something like measurement in terms of good governance, where you're a champion. If we were to do a comparable analysis, it sounds a little bit unfair, but that can be done in terms of measurement. How cooperative, how much of a relationship where they look for carry on your duty was the last government, as opposed to even 10, 11 months of this new government? And how optimistic are you as to the side where you think you want for head are we heading?
So you see the space for participation. One of the things let me go say, fortunately we enjoy the space for participation as Campaign for Good Governance. We are one of the civil society outfits with non-political arrangements, not they make we change at all. So people know the stance we will take. And nothing not preclude we for do we work. We they continue for do we work in the best interest of the country. I think say comparatively for say this government better pass this or that day, it's too early for make them kind of prescription and day. And I don't think say it's even a good way for measure democracy, because different leaders have their own style of arrangement. Some people are open, but what do we want for encourage that every government be a lot more open and transparent. If the country is having challenges, make we know. Say challenges then there. Whatever contributions we can give in terms of information, in terms of education, in terms of knowledge, we will do. But not in there with space, we have the space to operate. And one thing where I want to say, the challenge where this government for look at, and therefore look at the decisions the way that they take. For example, this issue of the NGO policy, where they call the Development Cooperation Framework, where get the tendency for close the space, although they don't create an opportunity for look at them and talk about them a lot more, less some of them policy than they know they did, because civil society contribution is very pertinent. What we need to do is to open the space more for more critical views and ideas, because now they empower government. The journalists are also calling to remove part 5 of when they talk about seditious libel, for remove them from the 1965 Public Order Act. May not they now law books.
Yeah, but the government promised that they will be doing that.
Yes, they made that commitment, but we not see it.
Okay.
So I just say them thing they and I
need
for more freedom of expression, freedom of association, and citizens go able to participate.
2 or 3 quick questions just before we land in one go. How optimistic are you in terms of the job we need to do? I mean, the results gain, yeah, how far we don't come, how far we are, how far we go. It come back to the same optimism. Secondly, what are your message for them one and we they in the diaspora? Because this message basically, although the local or domestic audience get for consumer, but it's mostly going to the one that we in the diaspora. What are your expectations, you know, yeah, in terms of participatory democracy, for help in terms of your good governance initiative for the diasporans? Then what can they do? And then finally, Marcela, just before I hear the final questions, congratulations again, very strong woman, and keep up the good work. But I will give you the chance for just flow in terms of International Day for the Women.
Okay, so my optimism is big. Because personally and as an organization, I run with the organization's vision. We optimism so big. We want to see, we get this vision of a dream Sierra Leone. And at that one day they keep we going every now and then. And we get this vision, say we can make them. And we get a critical mass, a following. You know, it will amaze you for no say people then can just call up, say I stop by an office for tell una thank you for what you do. And it shows say we get a critical mass of people who support this vision. In fact, for let you cancel if you're able to trace me and say I need an interview with you for me audience, the amount of Sierra Leone, it shows say there are Sierra Leoneans also in the diaspora who are interested in this vision.
Yep.
You know, to see a better Sierra Leone. Now that day now we are driving for, so we are optimistic we will get there. And we are happy for we say we are the part of a team where they contribute to this vision of the Sierra Leone we want to see. Yep. And also we want to see more women taking active part.
Absolutely.
We want to see more women in the boardroom. We want to see, as we move into International Women's Day, on 8th of March, we say balance for better. We want to see a better Sierra Leone, but this better Sierra Leone not for just go with male-only faces. It has to go with women faces as well.
Yeah, on the International Women's Day, ladies and gentlemen, again, Mrs. Marcela Samba Sesay, we just wrap up this interview, and tomorrow is International Women's Day. And Marcela, as a very strong woman, a stakeholder, again, I emphasize, you hear the emphasis is mine, but a strong woman, been just to talk again about the International Day of the Women, and they make a special appeal to the women, both domestically, I mean here in Freetown, Sierra Leone, and the world over. It's been a fantastic run and a fantastic interview, if you would like. Marcela, I want to use this opportunity again for say thank you so much, and please continue for do your good work what you do. And I really appreciate it, and I will convey this message to the rest of we Sierra Leonean and compatriots and with their board and with international friends and partners. Okay. Thank you so much for the interview.
Thank you for having me on your program.
Yeah, thank you very much, my dear. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Perfect.